Hi, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of season 2 of The Big Life. Jordyn, we're twinning today. I feel like we got some good vibes going on. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You're repping the Michigan State colors now that you're graduated and moved on.
I mean, no. That's all right though. It was a free hoodie, but I appreciate your effort. I appreciate the try.
It was there.
Yeah, I just saw Iowa got their Big Ten rings in the mail, and everyone's flashing them on social media. And I'm like, guys, mine didn't make it to Sweden. What happened? Did it get lost in the mail or what?
They just mailed them to you guys?
No, I mean everyone in person got theirs. I'm sure
Oh,
I think mine's getting mailed to my parents' house, but I'm like, dang, all right, this is a little sad seeing all them flash theirs. I'm just chilling in Sweden.
that is disappointing. I mean, it'll be here eventually though. And then you'll match the vibes we've got going here between the co-hosts, Big Ten champs.
We gotta
Not to
bring back
flex
the
or
matching
anything.
hat look. I liked it. I like the Big Ten champ hats.
Yeah, it took me forever to get mine though. So now it's your turn to wait because ours came like 2 months after we won.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, quite literally chilling in Sweden. We did get 6 inches of snow last week, so that was pretty brutal. But I think the tide's turning on weather. I think it's supposed to be 60 for our game this weekend. So very, very excited. Had a game last weekend, got a really well-earned tie against a really good team. So we'll take that as a win. How school's wrapping up, you're in finals week. How's everything going with you, Jay?
It's going, it's going. We had my last spring practice, last spring game. Spring season's over officially. It was very weird walking out of there, especially because it ended, but I wasn't playing. It was a very weird feeling knowing that I'll never be in that facility to train again, most likely. But yeah, last spring. Spring's over for me. Now we're focusing on finals. I had one, both of mine are at 7:45 in the morning this year. This week. It's ridiculous, but I had one Monday, I have one Thursday, I have all the final projects, had a couple last week. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Oh, I'm jealous of you right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Living the no school life is pretty great. Can't complain. All right. So for this episode, Jordyn and I decided to do something a bit unique. We didn't want to bring on a guest just because I truly want to say from the bottom of my heart, I am so, so grateful for everyone who has been keeping up with our journey. And especially after episode 1 this season dropped, where I talked about my experiences from everything past college soccer to the NWSL draft to playing in the NWSL, deciding going over to Sweden. My DMs were truly flooded with people, either thanking me for sharing their stories, saying that they had similar experiences, and so much. I had people asking me questions, and truly that is why we're here. This is why Jordyn and I are doing what we're doing. And I felt so grateful to feel connected to our audience and have them listen to us and have my story resonate with them in some kind of way. I know Jordyn has been getting a ton of questions lately too. So we decided to do a bit of a mailbag episode because our DMs are piling up and we need to start releasing some of these more so our hours aren't. I feel like our podcast episodes have been going from 35 minutes to an hour and 30. So no one wants to listen to my voice for that long. So this one's dedicated solely to your questions that you submitted. And we're so, so excited.
Yes, really. Thank you guys. The amount of outreach we had after season 2 dropped is absolutely incredible. It has been so fun to watch this grow and to see where we're at now and how many questions we have. So hopefully we do it justice and give you guys the answers you want. If not, send in another one.
Exactly. And that being said, if we don't get to your question today, because we won't get to everyone's, we got a Word doc that's just growing. Please keep submitting them. If you don't hear them on the pod, I know I've answered individual questions and sent emails back to people in a bunch of different ways. So we love hearing these things. We love helping out in any way and just sharing our journeys because the soccer world's complex and confusing and it's kind of crazy, but we love it anyway. So it's truly a joy.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, it's always changing and growing, especially within the last couple years. So some of our answers might be a little outdated from where the things are at now, but this is our experience and our journey and kind of how we got here.
Absolutely. And speaking of, we're going to do a quick ad break, but a bit different. This isn't a paid sponsor for an ad, but this is an ad for a Girls Soccer Network specific program. Soccerista United is back. We're going into our 4th season of a summer season of Soccerista United. So this spans from May June, and July. And this program is super, super unique and special. We have 11 incredible college mentors who are ready to work with your soccerista on a one-on-one environment and mentor them through different topics such as nutrition, mental toughness, confidence on the field, training, and so much more. We've heard so many great things about this program. Every single time we do it, it keeps growing, it keeps evolving. So if you are interested in learning more about our mentors and signing your socceristas up or anything of the above, email me at scary@girlssoccernetwork.com or check out girlssoccernetwork.com, Soccerista United in the product page. All the information's there. It's $100 for the 3-month program. And truly, truly, we think you get so much out of it for your soccerista. So thank you so much and consider signing up. All right. Anyway, Jordyn, let's get into some of these questions. I'm so excited. One of them actually kind of ties into a question I wanted to ask you. But one question we got is about a senior in high school who's going to play college soccer, and they're kind of worried about what their summer should look like to be ready. Jordyn, what does your summer look like as you're going into your senior year? What's the summer plan kind of for you right now?
Yeah, mine's gonna be a little unique just coming back with injury. So right now I finally got into a new mobility brace. I have regained full mobility in the last week of my knee and I'm doing a lot of rehab. So I'm hoping to get on the ball training and stuff kind of May 8th is my deadline where I'll start training in small sided games, not full contact yet. And then probably 2 weeks after that, I'll be full contact. So a lot of my gameplay and things of that nature are going to be in June and July. But for most of us in college soccer, we don't play a whole lot of games. Your kind of summer schedule, you'll have some girls do teams if you need to build confidence or extra touches on the ball, game fitness, things of that nature. But for the most part, you do just a lot of training. It's a huge individual focus, obviously, in the summer because you are alone. It's something you have to learn to do. And I wish I would have spent more time of when I was in high school is learning how to train efficiently just by myself because I've always had a team surrounding me up until that point. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of fitness. I'm gonna be on campus most of the time at Michigan State, which has been huge for me. I did this my freshman year going into sophomore year. Then obviously last year I was in Australia. So, but it makes a huge difference to have your athletic trainers with you. They'll run me through strength and conditioning programs. And then if I ever need, I can always go to the coaching staff for drill ideas and things of that nature. They're not allowed to reach out to me, but if I go to them and talk to them with certain issues or problems or check in, they are allowed to obviously respond. So yeah, that's a large part of my plan. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some game minutes because I feel like that's necessary for where I'm at in my process, missing most of spring in kind of June, July. And then the whole team returns here July 11th, I think was our date, or second week of July, somewhere around there. The whole team will be back on campus training. And then August 1st is your start date for college athletics again.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing looking back, when I was a senior in high school getting ready to go to college, I think number one is, does your team have any kind of summer workouts that are like captains led practices or anything like that? And if they do everything possible to be there. I think that's super important from not only a soccer standpoint of getting used to the level and the feel of the team, but also a team chemistry, team bonding. So much of that happens during the summer because that's when you can go train and then go lay out by the pool or lift together and then go grab smoothies together. And just like those little things where you don't have 18 places to run after like you do in season are truly so important to get to know each other as a team and build that foundation. And I would highly recommend that. The other thing, and you hear this so much in athletics, is control the controllables. The number one controllable is your fitness. That is something that you can do. So find out your fitness test from your coach. You'll be able to find that from anyone in the program. If your coach doesn't text you back or you can't reach out to your coach, reach out to someone else on the team. Be able to pass that fitness test day one. And understand that when you run it with the team, you're probably going to be a little nervous. So it might not be as good of a test. So I literally would run our college fitness test once a week. And for me, it's a dang good workout. Like I know I'm going to get a good workout out of it and I can measure where I'm at. So do what works for you, but be able to pass that fitness test day one, because that's your first impression. That's everyone's first impression of who you're going to be as a soccer player and as a teammate in a lot of regards. So being able to nail that day one, I think is key.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing, if I were to go back in time and I were to have that summer going into my freshman year, One thing I would do is this isn't necessarily a workout program, but I can't say it enough is I would go in to the transfer website of whatever school I'm going to, and I would take just 1 or 2 classes in the summer to help ease the fall of my degree program. Every school has it. You'll be able to see what credits can transfer in at different community colleges. You can take online classes. They'll be cheap, they'll be easy, and you'll have that progress towards your degree to make the fall where you're really going to be focusing on soccer a little bit easier for you. Things I didn't know until I got to soccer and I got to college, like your hydration. I would be super focused on having like a nutritional plan going into college where I'm able to sustain myself essentially and not have to rely on my parents or anything like that preparing for college. Be super hydrated. I'd have like a sleep schedule lined up because my one in high school was just so messed up. And you don't want to have to start that process where you're learning to wake up on time and go to sleep on time once you get here in the fall because you're going to be already behind. So I'd hone in on that, making sure you have a good routine set that'll let you be successful for college. And part of that too is knowing what time you practice. I'd reach out to your coaching staff and make sure that like if you have morning practices, make sure you're up and awake and ready on time in the summer for when those practices are going to be. Or same thing for the nighttime practices. Make sure you are alert and that's not like your nap time area. And then, yeah, I would really focus on, like you said, your fitness and then your ability to like be technical on your own. I'd reach out to your coaching staff for different drill ideas. There's a bunch online, but learning how to work hard on your own, I think is something huge that I wish I would have known more before I got to college.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Hit us with your next question, Jay.
All right. What mental health programs are available to student athletes?
So there's obviously a caveat here of that Jordyn and I both went to Big Ten universities. So we're extremely lucky in the sense of they're really well funded and athletic programs run deep. And this isn't true of all levels, of all places. That being said, I do believe there's a solid foundation, a large majority of NCAA institutions. So mental health programs at Iowa, there was kind of 2 different avenues. If I was, struggling with my mental health, which I did multiple times, we've all talked about it, that you could go down. And that was either an individual or a like group setting. So Iowa had like these really cool events called like Hawk Sport Hawks that we would do on like Wednesday nights. And it was basically a group get together and they'd be like, all right, this theme is confidence. This theme is performance anxiety. And it would be athletes of all different sports kind of getting together and working with a sports psychologist as a group about talking about these things, breaking them down, especially when it's a more generic thing. These were great opportunities to kind of like also understand that, someone on the football team is very similar in a lot of regards to someone on the soccer team and someone who is a gymnast and vice versa, and that we all very much struggle with similar things. The other avenue is like clinical individual sports psychology. So we had a sports psychologist that was assigned to our team that we could set up appointments with. I was seeing them on and off throughout my entire college career and do very much individualized one-on-one clinical setting. And this was not only for mental health conditions such as, depression, anxiety, all these things, but it could also be like sport performance training, visualization, all these other things. There's 2 different avenues that you could kind of talk to with a therapist about what you wanted to go down. And then if it was even more extreme, like I've been very open in my setting, from those clinical settings, they recommended antidepressants. Extremely fortunately, the insurance at the University of Iowa covered them. So I was on antidepressants for 4 years at Iowa for free, which was incredible. And I'm so, so thankful for that during my career at college. So there is so many avenues at these universities. The biggest thing is asking. And there's so many connected people. Like I loved my coach. Everyone knows I loved my coach. I don't know if I would have felt comfortable going to him, but your athletic trainer, your academic support staff, there's all these connections of avenues of, hey, I need help. Where can I get it? And they all very much know these answers. It's all about being willing to ask.
Absolutely. And I think that you brought up a really good point here, and it depends on the university. And something I didn't really realize or think about until I started talking to some of my other friends that were in other levels of soccer or athletics in general, how much that matters. And you get the question a lot where it's like, what about the difference between Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA? And what I'll say is sometimes they can compete. Like sometimes it's not the level of talent, but it is the level of funding you'll see at these different universities. A large part of that being the free healthcare that you receive at Division 1 and specifically Big Ten, which we've been blessed to, be a part of here. It's extremely well funded where we do have free healthcare essentially, and you have access to a lot more resources than you do at other universities. I'm sure that at some of the other levels, you'll still have access to these things. However, it may come out of your own pocket or insurance where they can set you up with more connections rather than having them on campus like we did. Michigan State is very similar to what you have, where our team specifically worked with a sports psychologist just for women's soccer. We hired him. And then we have access through a university for psychiatrists, psychologists, different avenues for that. Depending on what you need, they'll recommend, and you can meet with them as often as you need and from there you can decide on what the best route is for you to continue with your mental health support. But it really does depend on the university and what they offer. For us, this has been our experience.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Jordyn, in understanding like these are the differences at the levels, and the differences at levels that you're making when you're a high schooler doesn't necessarily always regard on, oh, D1's better than D2 and all that. Like there is so many D2 schools that we both know of that could beat many D1 programs and vice versa and all of the above. I think it's just understanding what you're getting at all of these different levels.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about recruiting process. Let's go into it more. Let's go back to our high school brains, if we can even think about it. How much of a role does your high school academics play into being able to get recruited at a college soccer level?
Okay, so in my experience, I've always had really, really good grades. So in my experience, like it was never an issue. However, it depends on where you're at. Having really, really good grades, I think will make you more competitive if you need a certain scholarship amount to go to university, because this allows a university to give you academic scholarship support rather than athletic, and it allows the athletic department to keep that money and hold it for another player. It makes all of that a lot easier because you have limited scholarships available to give to athletes to come to your team. And if you're not taking it out of the athletic portion, it allows them to recruit other high-level individuals because you're on academic money. And then in the middle there, I don't think it really affects if you have decent grades, maybe not enough for academic scholarship funds. I think it doesn't really affect your recruiting process as much, but you may receive less money because you don't have that as an option, or you may, have to be kind of filtered into different programs with what you decide to do in college. You may not have as many majors available to you from the team. They may, tell you to do something a little bit differently, which is valid. And then if your grades are really questionable, though, like a school's not going to take that risk on you because you still have to meet certain standards to be academically eligible to play at this level. If you are a risk, there's no reason for them to keep you on the team and for them to spend money on you for you to sit the bench and lose it within the first semester because you don't meet the requirements set by the NCAA to be able to participate.
This is so funny to me, Jay, only because I can tell how differently our brains operate when we get the same question, but we think about it so differently. So Jordyn just gave you a business lecture, which is 100% true. It's money standpoint. At the end of the day, we've all seen it. College athletics is a business. I see it as an asset production. Listen, I'm not saying every single person needs to have a 4.0 GPA. I totally understand that that is not feasible, that is not something that everyone either can or wants to put the time in or all those different things to achieve. 100%. That being said, I am coming from the caveat of I was my high school valedictorian. So, there is a range there. I view academics, especially in high school, as a first impression. When you are going and you are getting recruited by a college, you are pitching yourself to them. I am pitching Sam Carey to this college because I want to be a part of it. Yes, as a soccer player. That being said, college is about more. And I fully believe that your grades plus your football ability tells a lot about you as a person. If you are a great player, but your grades absolutely suck, this person with a great player, but not great grades, and a medium player with medium grades has maybe a better chance of getting recruited just because it's easier for them to see, okay. I also think it says a lot about work ethic. This might be a really hot take, and I'm sorry about it. If I'm wrong, I understand. Let me just caveat this. I understand there's situations where this does not apply. That being said, at a certain point, Academics are based on how hard you're willing to try. I'm not saying that that's a 4.0, but I'm saying that above a 2.5 is how hard you're willing to try and how much time you're willing to put in. If I'm a coach recruiting you, I see that if you're beneath that standpoint, you're not willing to put the time in. And if you're not willing to put in the time into that, who's to say you're willing to put the time into my program? So everything when it comes to academics, though, yes, it helps with scholarships, though, yes, it tells who you are and what you want to be and how you're going to grow at the football level. And I think that that's a really big caveat when it comes to all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that Jeff, my coach, says all the time is that you are what you do all the time. Mm-hmm. That if you are disciplined, you are going to be disciplined both in academics and both on the field. If you are hardworking, if you have a good work ethic, it's going to show up both in the classroom and on the field. So I think that's a really good point. Clearly, we thought about that question very differently. But I think both remain true. They two different aspects of it, and you got a little bit of both there. So, all right, Sam. So a question we get a lot is after you get to college soccer, how important is the recovery process during the season as you stay healthy throughout the entire fall?
Okay, so you're talking to an old lady here. And by old lady, yes, I'm 23 at heart. My bones crack like crazy. I feel like I'm definitely old. My last college soccer season, I felt old. I think that recovery is the reason I got through. And valuing that time and understanding what your body needs is crucial to having a healthy college career. And that's obviously not saying you're going to be healthy the whole time and all those things. But I think a lot of it is like, hey, listen, some people are going to be able, because they just can, to just not do a cool down and not ever be in the ice bath and not do all those things and still be happy, perky, and bouncy. I am not one of those people. I know, crazy. That being said, I think that you need to understand that your own recovery time is very individualized to you and you need to listen to your own body. And like, just because so-and-so doesn't want to get an ice bath or do whatever doesn't mean that you don't have to. And so understanding what modalities work for you, all those things. But the number one thing of recovery, and something I honestly don't think I learned well enough until my sophomore and junior year, is if you are not drinking enough water, if you are not sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night, if you are not well nourishing your body, all the fancy ice baths, massages, Normatex, Theraguns aren't going to do anything. That is the foundation of recovery, and everything else is just building on top of it.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it any better myself. Those are the main pillars. You have to have good sleep, nutrition, and hydration, or like you said, the rest of it just doesn't matter. It's Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Like, it is not going to do anything here. For Michigan State, we are mandated to roll out and do band stretching after every practice and every single game. And we are also mandated to then get into the ice bath for at least 10 minutes after every single practice and every single game. I didn't know that coming into it. And once you get into it, I was like, there's no way. Like, I hate being cold. You want me to sit into this puddle of ice water for 10 minutes every single day? It has been such a huge help. And you really feel the difference once I go from summer where I'm home and maybe training and I don't have access to those things, where I'm used to it every day. And then I come back and, you feel a difference in your body and the recovery process for sure. So that's been what has helped me. But I don't think I could have said it any better, that sleep, nutrition, and hydration are the most important aspects that go into it. And it makes a huge difference in your performance. I got by in high school. I thought I was fine. I played well. It does not translate to the next level if you're not doing those things. You will not be able to keep up and your body will slowly fall apart. At 21 years old, I feel like I'm 80 some days. Like, it will fall apart.
And I think the really interesting about recovery in general, too, is the expectations you have. Now being a pro, we don't do team cool down. No one's handing you a foam roller or a band after training. No one's telling you to get in the ice bath. It's all about your own knowledge of your body and knowing what you need and advocating for what you need sometimes. I went to our athletic trainer the other day and I was like, can we draw an ice bath? I'm really feeling it. And so you do have to go out of your way and advocate for yourself and understand what you need. And I think that that's what you learn in college. So truly figuring that out, that way, if you are choosing to take that next step, knowing that you're going to need to do it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really interesting part of it.
All right. So that being said, have you always been a starter? What is it like to be a practice-only player? How did you or someone else maybe overcome that adversity, or do you just embrace the situation?
Yeah, this is a good one. This, I think, encompasses a lot of my career thus far, is being a little bit of both. I definitely have not always started, but I've never been a practice only player, really. I've always found my way into most games, even if it's just for sometimes 8 minutes, 4 minutes. So I can't speak to that part as much, but I think it's a similar mentality. It's really, really hard. It is extremely hard to go into a situation where you think you're going to have an immediate impact and you believe that you're good enough and that you're training hard enough and that you succeed expectations for you to be able to go onto the field, and then you're not. I mean, it can be truly, truly heartbreaking, and it's something really, really hard to get over. But I think you definitely do just have to embrace the role, and you just have to have the mindset that no matter what happens, you are going to make a difference on the team. Good or bad, like you have to be able to put yourself in a situation where they're going to notice you and try your hardest. And even if you mess up, at least you tried. Because I think what happens a lot of times is players start to give up and they start to just really like shelter down and look within and kind of shut down as they begin to play, and they get in their head a lot and you see them kind of spiral. And I think what's helped me out of a lot of the situations, especially my sophomore year, where I was consistently just kind of given different roles where disappointment, I think, comes from where your expectations don't meet your reality. And I thought I was good enough to be on the field a lot more than I was. And I wasn't seeing it. And it took me a while, but eventually I learned that you definitely just have to embrace it. Like you have the opportunity to go out there every day and to be a part of this team. And I never would have thought I made it this far. I accomplished more than I ever dreamed possible. And the fact that I'm getting upset over these minutes and something I can't control is crazy. So what you have to do is you have to work harder. Like simple as that. You just have to go out there and you have to work harder than everybody else. And you have to make it so incredibly obvious that you belong out there. And that comes from both a talent standpoint and a voice. You know, make sure you're being the first one there at practice, putting out cones, picking up cones, throwing everything you can at the wall, and embracing that role and not letting yourself kind of give up.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great feedback. And, in my career, I have been blessed to be a starter in a lot of different scenarios. And the first time I was really faced with something like this was during my time at Louisville. I was well aware I wasn't going to be a starter, and I was well aware I likely wasn't going to find opportunity on the field in a lot of different ways. And so I think the biggest thing is, hit it on the head saying, like, embrace your role, be the best god dang practice player there is, be the best scout team player there is, do everything possible. And when you can remove it from an individual, though, yes, it is frustrating as an individual, and see it as a team picture, you can still find a way to be connected. And so finding your way that you do connected, you are valued. And if you don't feel valued, speak up and get that from your coach. I think so much of college athletics is advocacy and understanding that you do need to advocate yourself. You don't have your parents anymore. Your college coach or your high school coach isn't going to coddle you like your college coach did, or vice versa. You know what I'm trying to say? Your high school coach coddled you and your college coach won't. So understand that you do need to be adult about these situations. Also, the number one rule and number one way to destroy your standing in a team is to be a bad teammate in a locker room. The number one rule is to not go into the locker room when you think you should be playing over so-and-so and talk about it and create the drama. That is a conversation between you and a coach, and holding that as professional as possible and separating the personal aspect and the personal hurt of that is going to help you regain your standing in so many ways.
Absolutely. My sophomore year, I was deemed by Jeff several times, and kind of the quote in all the interviews I did was super sub, which was absolutely heartbreaking to hear at the time because I wanted to be a super starter. But looking back at it, I think it's a proud kind of name that I can wear and be like, I did that. You know, it wasn't easy, but I played well and I put my all into it, and I battled. I battled every single game. And luckily for me, the last game of the season in the NCAA tournament, I did end up getting my start and played 90 minutes. So the hard work, not in all cases, but hopefully in most, it does pay off if you really are putting your all into it and you're showing up every day. They'll see it. The other thing is, like you said, it's advocacy. So for me, when I wasn't getting what I want, it felt like the coaching staff was giving up on me. Like I had created this entire narrative in my head about what they were thinking and about what they wanted for me in my career. And I was like, I had this whole thing. all this whole circumstance where I thought I knew exactly what Jeff was thinking. And it turns out in our end of the year meeting, couldn't be more wrong. And what I learned from that is you have to go to your coaching staff and you have to have those conversations, even if they're hard. I'm not saying to go in there and demand more time or anything like that, but to be like, hey, like, I feel like I've been playing really well. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, what can I do better to get out there and kind of get a plan together? Or just be like, hey, like, what are you thinking? Like, what's going on right now? Like, here's where I'm at. Where are you at?
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to be on the same page with your coaching staff. Because I think for me, that was the hardest part, was creating a narrative that simply wasn't true about my coaching staff and what they saw from me. Because it felt like to me, they had given up and I was pushed to the side. And turns out none of that was true. But yeah, I think you hit on the head. Advocacy for yourself and being able to voice your thoughts and opinions with your coaching staff is a huge part of it.
All right. So going backwards a little bit, going into the recruiting process a little bit more, how would you like to see the recruiting process changed for future women's players, especially for those who may not have as much visibility?
Yeah, this is again, a really, really good question. The biggest thing I'd love to see change is the kind of pay to play aspect that has grown for us. The difference between even when I got recruited, which was still a pay to play scenario, compared to where my sister's at. She's 10 years younger than me. So she is going through it right now. She's 11, just starting her club process and doing all this stuff. It is so different. And it's become also a lot more focused, I guess I would say, where you are having parents and coaching and all of that. They're forcing kids to pick a main sport super early in their career. And they're setting it up where you don't have any time or opportunity to do anything outside of soccer if this is what you're choosing. And I think that's heartbreaking to see, because some of the best athletes I've been able to play college soccer with have been multi-sport athletes. I think it's a huge benefit to playing multiple sports for as long as you can to make you a better soccer player. And I truly believe it does translate. I was a 3-sport athlete throughout all of high school. I did basketball and track, and I wouldn't change it for the entire world. I think it was great. I learned so much from being on those teams to be able to be a good soccer player. And the fact that they're making these kids choose at such a young age it's really hard. I think it's going to create a lot of burnout and going to have an opposite effect for the recruiting process. And then the pay to play aspect, like, you have incredibly talented kids who aren't getting the visibility they need simply because they can't afford it. These coaching staff and the way they're setting up now, got your alphabet soup leagues, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But if you're not part of those top leagues, it's really hard to get visibility now, where when we were going through it, I felt like it was a little bit easier. And I think it's changing a lot, where it's becoming a lot harder to get that visibility.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about recruiting now, and obviously, Jordyn has a bit of an edge having a sister going through it, is the fact that you can look everywhere, meaning social media, and see what everyone else is doing and somehow feel that you're not doing enough. And I feel like that pressure has then added on to youth soccer, that now 11-year-olds and 10-year-olds are feeling that they're not doing enough. Love to shout out someone that emailed me asking questions. And she emailed me because she's like, I'm a panic soccer mom right now. And my 8-year-old, I don't know where she should go, either pre-ECNL or GA or all these things. And I'm like, she's 8. And it really just took me to the reality that this is a level that we're pressuring each other to. And another one of her questions was sports. She's like, everyone's telling me to specialize sports. And I'm like, she's 8. And so that's just beyond crazy to me, that that's like the level of pressure. And I think the number one thing we need to change is that we need to let people fall in love and enjoy the game of soccer, and not pressure an 8-year-old to make a decision about what team she needs to play to figure out about her college future. And understand that these decisions can be made at later times. But if you don't even like soccer, it's not a point. And so, I feel like it's just, and then we put the pressure on kids to like soccer because their family made this commitment. And that's where we get the level of burnout that we do. And so I think the biggest thing I would change is just a big slowdown of everything, and of social media and of all of that. And, a big advantage did happen. Like, the college recruiting process is so much slower now than what we did. Like, we did it when we were freshmen and sophomores. At least I did it, but understanding that though the NCAA has slowed down the process hasn't still been slowed down.
Yeah. If anything, from what I've seen, and maybe I just wasn't in these groups to see it all as I am now, and I get these questions. But it feels like, if anything, it's definitely sped up where you're having kids at a very, very young age make these decisions for the rest of their future. Like trying to get recruited in college at 8 years old is absolutely insane. And I think what a lot of things happen, or a lot of things that are happening, is parents making these decisions, like you said, and putting all the pressure on the child. The biggest advice I'd give to any parent is you cannot sign up for club soccer thinking it will pay off, thinking you will get your investment back. 99.9% of you will not. You are going to spend the money, you're going to go to these things, you're going to spend the time, and you are not going to get that money back in terms of a scholarship or anything of that nature. And I think that's what a lot of parents think, and why they push it so hard and spend all this money is because they think they're going to get a return on investment. You cannot go into it with that mindset. It is going to ruin your child, and you're most likely not going to get that money back. And I think it's just absolutely crazy that's what it's come to, and how many people believe that and are showing that and going through that. But that's the biggest advice I give to parents is don't sign up for anything thinking it's going to pay off in the end. Do it because your child loves it and because you want to give them that opportunity and because you think it's going to be what's best for them in this moment, not because you're setting them up for some fantastical future that you are dreaming and believing, will financially pay off for you.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to phase right into our next question because it transitions perfectly. The question was, can you go into a deep discussion about the alphabet soup of soccer leagues? And can someone not playing in those leagues still have the same opportunities that someone is playing in those leagues? So my number one caveat here is that it depends, and most likely, and I know it doesn't really make sense, I will go out and say, yes, it is true. There are some D1 programs, maybe D2, D3, I can only speak to D1, that will only recruit someone playing in the ECNL or playing in the GA or what they deem one of those top leagues. I can tell you, Iowa is not one of them. I can tell you there's a lot of schools that aren't one of those programs, but there are some out there. It's just a frankly reality of the situation. I do know of a couple. I ran across a couple in my recruiting base. That being said, as someone who has seen a lot of the level of ECNL versus GA versus regional league versus all these other crazy things, I think that, yes, it would be naive to say that all of them are the same. All leagues are the same. There are inherently some differences, and therefore it's going to depend what you want your outcome to be. I also think that there are situations where there are special situations and special players that don't need the little boost of other things. And so, I'll go out and say it. I do frankly believe right now in the United States, ECNL and GA are top leagues. I think that they have your highest success rate. Do I think ECNL versus GA matters? I think the biggest thing that it matters is your location. I can't say that the ECNL versus GA in St. Louis is the same as the ECL versus GA in maybe Idaho, where there might be more or less competition. I think that's not fair. I think the number one thing that your daughter needs to be doing is playing for a coach where you're going to actually be on the field. If you have aspirations of playing college soccer, but you never touch the field on your ECNL team, is it worth it being on the ECNL team? Are you really going to get recruited? I think that's a blank question. I think a lot of people go into the alphabet soup of it, expecting a title to get them somewhere. The title will get you a leg up in some situations. It will not get you a results. Because if you're not playing, if you don't like the coach, if you do not gel well, if they do not respect your style, all of these different things, it's not going to work out for you in the long run. And so I think there just needs to be an understanding of what your goals are. And yes, I think a lot of leagues can get you a lot of places. I referee a lot, as we know. And I've refereed at the USYS National Championships, which feature a lot of, state cup winning programs that aren't your ECNL programs. They're different filters. It's a different pathway. I think those players are incredibly talented. And a lot of them I know go to top level colleges. And so I think the biggest thing is understanding that, yes, ECNL, GA, they get you visibility. They get your foot in the door maybe a little bit more than playing for your local club. But you have to understand what goals you're going into. And I think the biggest way to answer that is go on the team's website, look at where their current seniors are signing to college. Maybe that's your idea of where you see yourself, because there is some inherent difference. But, some teams may have the top, and that might not be what you want. but other teams have the level, girls signing to the level that you see fit. And so it's all about understanding that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think you said it really, really well there, where the title gets you visibility, but it does not guarantee you a spot in any sort of team. I will say that we have kind of a whiteboard in our coach's office with what they're doing and where they're going and kind of their schedule. And most of the places they do go, or there's ECNL and GA showcases and events like that. I think that will guarantee you probably the most exposure at this point in time, at this level, to high level college programs, such as, those power conferences. But like you said, it doesn't guarantee you anything in that sort of nature. I will say if you're not in some of those top program or ECNL and GA, and if you're not getting all that exposure from showcases and all of that stuff, I would recommend you definitely do some ID camps.
Yes.
And go to the ones where you can compete against players that maybe they had already committed or, are coming in or they're interested in, where not all ID camps are the same. You do have to do some research about when they are and about what they're looking for at certain ID camps. Some are a money grab, I will say, and like others are definitely looking for talent and recruiting, and you have to be able to distinct which one's which. What college want to see is you compete against the highest level, because that's what they expect from you when you get here, is for you to be able to compete at the highest level. And if you're not in or on a team that's going to push you to be successful in that nature, and that you're not competing against people who are better than you or just as good as you, if you are just the top dog and, kind of a bad program, as good as you may look and as good as your stats may be, I will say it's going to be really hard for a college coach to look at you and be able to distinguish whether or not you're going to have success at the next level, because you're not competing against people that are going to be able to translate to that college level. So like you said, it all depends. I do think it is really helpful and important for exposure. However, it really does depend what you are looking for and what level you're trying to go to. And if you're not going to do it, I do think you do have to do some extra work in the recruiting process in terms of emails and getting your name out there and going to ID camps and doing different things of that nature, because the natural exposure that's built into those teams is you're not going to receive.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And, I think it's enough said that the pay to play structure that we have in all of these leagues do make life for kids and parents so extremely exhausting and tiring. So it's so sad that we have to be on here saying this kind of stuff. That being said, it is frankly the world we live in. And I think that Jordyn said it really well. You're not shooting yourself in the foot by not playing on one of these fancy alphabet soup level teams. However, you do have to understand that you may have to put in extra work to get the same result, which isn't inherently a bad thing either. It's just all understanding where you want to go and where your goals can be, and really knowing that going into a decision.
Absolutely. I think knowledge is power for this, and just knowing what you have to do to get to that level and knowing where you stand in terms of their eyes is the most important part. So with that, Sam, what are your thoughts on ODP?
So I can only come from it from a standpoint that I know. And to be frank, I did do ODP when I was 12 and when I was 13, and I had a really fun experience. And I met people from all across the state that I still know and watched their careers and played with and against, and I had a ton of fun. That being said, if the bigger picture is ODP and where can it get you, it didn't do anything for me. And everyone's different. I quit when I was 13. Maybe if I would have kept with it, I would have had some other cool experiences or whatnot. I think ODP is frankly, though it is advertised as a best in your state, best in your region, all these things, I think it's just another alphabet soup. My ECNL team didn't let us play ODP, so that's why I quit. So they sometimes take the best talent and pull that out already. There's certain caveats and it's extra games and all this stuff. I think it just, frankly, it might be a great solution to say show a college that you're competing against a great level. If you can get to that national ODP level and you're playing on a local or a team without the fancy name behind it, that could be a great way to get good games against good quality opponents for coaches to see. That's kind of, once again, measuring that. But I think at the end of the day, it is just mixed in with the rest of the alphabet soup.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone's really getting recruited solely on an ODP thing. I think that's a good point, especially with the way social media has changed the recruiting process, that if you could get film against some of these top players and you're doing well, that could help you. For me, ODP, I did it for a year or two, didn't really do much with it. A lot of girls on club kind of joined it, but it was just a great experience. It was kind of the first step in growing up and seeing what it was like. You're traveling without your parents and just a lot of other kids are there. And it was just a lot of fun. I definitely met a lot of girls that I see now at the Big Ten level, and they were a part of it, but nobody got recruited based off of it. I think it was just a really fun and unique experience that if you're in it for that, I would do it for that. If you're in it because you think you're going to get recruited off of it, I would say probably find something else or somewhere else to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of this, someone has put out there that since university soccer programs don't really have a recruiting or travel budget, did you use social media to get your name out there to college coaches?
I did not. I think it is probably necessary now, though. It is a huge part of the game. We have interviewed both my coach and your coach, and both of them have said how it's changed and how they use it now in the recruiting process. I think anyone can put together a good highlight reel, right? And that's not going to be what makes the difference for you. However, being able to showcase some of your unique talents and being able to put together maybe full game films and send it to coaching staff where you're not getting just the highlight clips, but they're able to see you compete at a high level where maybe they're not able to go to your showcase or you're in not one of these alphabet soup places, but you can show them what you're doing. I do think it's really, really helpful. And if anything else, it just gets your name out there where when you send that email, they recognize it, they open it, and they spend maybe a little bit more time going through your bio sheet and whatever you send them. I do think it's changed a lot, and definitely seeing where it's at now is completely different than when we did it. And I would recommend anyone to kind of just start getting into the social media aspect of soccer if they're looking and they're young and looking to get recruited at this point.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And it's something that I think both Jordyn and I can't necessarily speak on our own experiences, but we can speak on experiences we've heard. First of all, I do want to say, like, the budget for college coaches to recruit is not nothing. They do spend a lot of time going to events, going to games, going to showcases, especially in, the off time of like the spring season when like fall, they're not recruiting, they're focusing on their own season. But when they're not, they are going to a lot of these events. So I want to kind of like get that out there. However, I do think social media is part of the game. I still haven't fully formed my opinion on how important it is, but I think it's an opportunity that's free, and why wouldn't you take it? I'm sure there are so many people at this level who don't even have a Twitter account or, aren't active on their social media and are still getting recruited. I do not think it is oh my God, you absolutely have to have this to get recruited. That being said, a Twitter account is free. And if you are going to take the time to show yourself on social media, I think social media and how you use it can be a whole nother different discussion. It can be an idea of like, I think social media is a first impression as to who you are as a person. And if I'm a coach looking at your social media, I don't want to just recruit a robot who is only saying all the right things, but I want them to be people. And I want to know that they got on their school's honor roll and that their friend was a basketball state champion and they are hyping them up or whatever it is. It may seem silly. I think that social media is an avenue for a coach to know you're interested. I think tagging coaches and things is really a great opportunity that kids have nowadays. I think that you shouldn't tag a head coach every single day. I think that you shouldn't tag 75 coaches because you just want some attention, and you should be, narrowing that list and understanding like why you're specifically tagging a coach at a certain thing. I think there's a lot of caveats to social media. That being said, I think Jordyn nailed it on the head with the number one thing social media does is, guess what? I just saw your name on my phone because you came up on my Twitter feed and you sent me an email. That's 2 times your name has been in front of my eyes. Now I might pay more attention. It's getting your name in front of people. And then that way, when they see you on a roster, when they see you on a stat list, when they see you on an email, they take you all the more serious because they recognize the name. And I think that's the biggest thing that social media does for a player. And once again, it's free. So why not take advantage of that?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing, once you start that social media account that I've seen kind of have a lot of or more success is training drills. Like record yourself in your garage doing technical foot skill stuff. And like I said before, one of my coach's favorite kind of quotes is you are what you do all the time. And if you are constantly posting different training drills and things you're doing like that, I think it is a great first impression to have to show you're dedicated in your work ethic and that you're willing to put the time in to get better, which is what coaches are ultimately looking for. So again, like you said, I don't think it's an end all be all, but I do think it's a great tool that you have available now and that's growing. And I don't see any reason not to use it.
Yeah.
Although make sure you are keeping a clean social media You don't want to have anything on there if you are trying to get recruited that is going to go the other way, which I think goes without saying. Don't put anything out there that's going to give you a bad look or a bad impression, because you still see that sometimes, especially with how popular social media is nowadays. It's just kids doing stupid things and it gets a snapped a picture of it and it's out there. And then, you have coaches look the other way because it's not worth the risk to them.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Ending this podcast on a little bit of a fun note. What is the most fun about being a part of a team?
I think at the end of the day, you're not going to remember like the goals you scored or the games you won or any of that sort of stuff. You're going to remember all the little moments in between that you had with your teammates, all the stupid jokes and the silly things you did on trips and just all of those moments in between. You're going to remember how you felt at that time. And I think that's the most special part about being on the team is that you have built-in best friends and that you have this connection for the rest of your life. Like nobody else will get to experience what you experienced being on this team together, competing at this level, going through all the lows and all the highs. And I think it's something super special. And it's my favorite part is to look back on those moments and just smile and be like, we did that. We did that. We did it together. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing. Like, listen, we all know I'm not in college anymore. And when I look back on Iowa, as much as I love the games won and all those things, it's never going to be that. It's going to be the stupid stuff we did in the locker room, the pranks we pulled on each other, the laughing over someone falling at training, all those little things. And so I think being a part of a team is just, you get to be with people that every day that have the same goal as you are, that is fighting as hard as you are. And there's something truly bonding in that. And I think that's the most remarkable part about it. And that's why we all love team sports. Soccer's not an individual sport. And that's probably one of the best things about it. I like individual sports, but it's just a whole different mentality. And so having that is truly special.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think we intended for that to be a shorter episode, and I don't think it was at all. I absolutely love it, guys. Your questions truly mean the world to us. And I think it's really great that we got to take some time to really dive into them, answer some of them, getting on some soapboxes a little bit, but it's absolutely incredible. Keep them coming. Scary at girlssoccernetwork.com or both of our Instagram DMs. It's a great place to drop them off, as well as always girlssoccernetwork.com or our Instagram, Girls Soccer Network. We love hearing from you. We hope all is well. Guys, it's a big week coming up. I got my third game down Les Fonskin play. We'll go on for that first win on a home opener. So super excited for that. Jordyn's going to go crush her final exams and then is cruising into her senior year of college. So big stuff coming. Truly cannot wait. And thank you for everything, guys.
Thanks, guys.